Hey y'all, what's up? Welcome back to The Farmer's Table. My name is Jess, if you are new here. I'm so glad that you're here. And I'm extra glad that I am about to get to eat what I'm going to show you guys how to make. It is officially homegrown tomato season. Tomatoes are one of my most favorite foods. I love growing them in the garden. I've made lots of content about growing tomatoes over on my gardening channel, Roots and Refuge. But today I want to show you a really simple, slightly unexpected way to eat a tomato. And this is something you may have never even heard of before. I hadn't heard of it until a few years ago, and it's become a summer staple in my kitchen. Today we are making brown butter tomatoes. So we're gonna start by putting a few tablespoons of butter over medium heat on the stove. If you've never browned butter before, don't wander away from it. Make sure you watch it because you can burn it really quickly, and depending on your stove, you may need to lower the heat down to kind of like a lower medium. But we really just want to slowly warm this up and cook it on a gentle heat so that it browns. Obviously, this is a faster process if you're going from room temperature butter, but I'm pulling some out of the fridge here and that'll be okay too. While the butter's getting ready, I'm going to cut up a tomato. I'm trying to decide which one to use. I love tomatoes so much. I grow lots of different colors of tomatoes, and I think that this recipe works best if you can mix like a yellow tomato with like a dark reddish purpley dusky one and a light red one, because you get a lot of the different flavor profiles. I can't eat that much. I'm the only one here. When Ben, my youngest son, is with me, I'll do a mix. But today I'm just gonna cut up the ripest tomato that I have. Now, I am admittedly something of a tomato snob. I like to joke that store-bought tomatoes taste like disappointment. They're often picked green and shipped from very far away, meaning you don't get the same flavor compounds as if you were able to pick it ripe off of a vine. But I will say, doing the brown butter on the tomatoes does really concentrate the flavor. I think that this would be most enjoyable with a homegrown tomato, and if you can't get a homegrown tomato, then a nice heirloom tomato. But if you can't get your hands on that, I think the next best thing would be to get store-bought cherry tomatoes. I find that of all store-bought tomatoes, those really do have the best flavor, and you could just cut them in half and put the brown butter on them. This does work well with cherry tomatoes also. So I'm just cutting this up into bite-sized pieces and throwing it in the bowl. My favorite tomatoes to use for this are like big meaty ones that don't have a whole lot of seeds. What we're gonna do is so simple. We're literally just browning butter, pouring it on the tomatoes, throwing a sprinkle of salt on it. But I think my mouth is watering thinking about it. It's my first time this season to have this. I heard a sizzle here, so I wanted to come back and check on it. Make sure as this is melting that you stir it occasionally. I usually just move the pan around a little bit, and as it begins to heat, we're going to keep doing that. Just, I don't know, maybe once or twice every minute. And as the heat picks up, we'll pick up the movement on that also. With this, pouring this brown butter over tomatoes, it is the strangest thing. I cannot explain to you why it does what it does and why it tastes like it does, but it somehow reminds me of lobster and drawn butter. I know it's crazy, I know, but I'm telling you, you just gotta try it once. It's so easy that there's no good reason not to. I mean, unless you just can't eat tomatoes or can't eat butter. But even if you're like, ooh, that sounds weird, I would love it if you would try this and just tell me your reaction, because I think it is the coolest, albeit kind of strange thing. So what you're gonna see is as your butter melts and then it starts to brown, you'll see sort of like a more golden color come into it. And again, we just want to make sure we're moving it because those milk solids are going to separate and they can easily burn. And we want to make sure that we're not getting a bunch of black bits in our brown butter. So we're just going to keep moving this and allowing it to cook gently over medium heat. I just dropped it down a tad, so it's just under medium. I feel like browning butter is the easiest in a stainless steel pan. That's what I usually use. You can do it in cast iron, but if you need to lower the heat, it takes a little bit longer to cool off. So I usually opt for a small stainless steel saucepan for any time that I need brown butter for anything. Browning butter is kind of one of those cooking hacks that makes you seem like you're a lot better at cooking than you are. Like, I'm not like an exceptional cook in the sense of like being highly educated in it. I mean, I've been cooking for 20 years and I make lots of food that makes people very happy. But it's from learning little things like this where you get a lot of wow factor with a really simple step. When you brown butter, there's a chemical reaction called the Maillard process, and essentially, I may be saying that wrong, I learned it from reading, but it is where animal protein breaks down and just becomes so much more flavorful. So you get this really like toasty, almost toffee-ish note with browned butter that does not exist in regular butter. And the cool thing is that for a lot of recipes that call for butter, you can use brown butter in its place. And it's kind of magic at what it does. You know, like brown butter chocolate chip cookies. I make this really good cobbler, which I'm going to show you guys as soon as I can get my hands on some local peaches. We've had a few from our trees, but not enough to make a cobbler with. And it's like a brown butter thyme peach cobbler. Oh, so good. And I make it gluten-free, which makes my heart happy. Anyway, in this particular application though, just throwing brown butter on plain tomatoes with some salt, easy as can be, and you get something that tastes so complex that it's literally like head scratching. So you can see here the color of my butter is really kind of starting to darken, and at this point I like to try to keep it moving much more than earlier on so that it does not burn. And this kind of comes down to preference, like how much you want to brown this. As you can see, those milk solids are really starting to get very golden in there, if you can see that. And so it's kind of a fine line to make sure that they don't start turning black. So I keep it moving and let it keep getting more and more golden. All right, here's my butter. Here's my bowl, and here's where the magic happens. You definitely want all those brown bits in your bowl. Now this was salted butter, so you could taste it at this point and see if you feel like you need to add salt. All right, I'm gonna put a tiny pinch of salt on this. I'm using Celtic sea salt here. Another really great salt is Malden. That's very affordable. I'll put some links to some good salt. Salt is one of those things that can elevate your cooking again. That's like low input, large return. Good salt makes a massive difference in how your food tastes. I probably could have gone with less here, but sometimes I get excitable about butter. It's so weirdly good. Like, what the heck even? I don't know how to describe it. The butter's hot, the tomato tastes kind of coolish. The only time that it doesn't is when you bring it in hot from the plant outside, which that's just another level of good. But it's got this like tangy acid from the tomato, this like real savory note from the brown butter. It's salty, it's somehow refreshing, but also very satiating. I just want you to try it. I want this to be a thing that you just try and tell me what you think. Maybe it's not for everybody, but I've shared this with quite a few people who have been just as mind-boggled as I have, so I feel pretty confident sharing it with you. Let me know in the comments below. This is something you can whip together really easily. Tell me what you did, tell me what you loved. Thank you for hanging out with me today. God bless you. Until next time.